Many different things are going on in the GPU world right now, so I thought I'd make a video discussing them. Didn't really feel it was necessary to make a separate video for each topic, so I condensed them all in one. But let's get into it and discuss that all in this video. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on guys, Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you've all been doing well. I wanted to start this video off today by discussing the latest news surrounding Intel RX A770. Now, I've seen some comments and also some outlets basically giving this message off that Intel is done making this GPU or that it's totally discontinued. What's actually going on here is that Intel has just stopped making the reference OEM version of the A770. I mean, it was called the limited edition after all. Now, AIBs will still continue to sell the ARC A770 16GB, and right now you can pick up an AIB partner model from Newegg for around $340. Now, this isn't anything unusual. Other GPU manufacturers like AMD and Nvidia have also done this in the past, where they'll sell their reference or founders edition models for a limited time, then discontinue them but still sell chips to AIB partners so they can continue to make aftermarket models. The other thing is that Intel is probably preparing Battlemage, which is their next gen GPU architecture, but that still isn't going to be for some time now. I personally think that the pricing on the 16GB A770 is a bit too high now. I mean, sure, you got 16GB of VRAM, but it's facing some tough competition from discounted 6750 XTs and newer cards as well. Speaking of newer cards, there was a press release from Nvidia surrounding their upcoming RTX 4060 graphics card. It was basically the same sort of marketing material we saw from them once the 4060 Ti was released. They showed off some comparisons between the 4060 and 3060, but had enabled DLSS 3 with frame generation on the 4060, so it makes it look like it's a lot faster than it really is. However, they did show a chart where they claim that the 4060 is about 20% faster than an RTX 3060 without frame generation, according to their claims, and if we reference a website like Tech PowerUp's GPU database, this card should land at around RTX 2080 levels of performance or trade blows with AMD's latest RX 7600 XT, which, if you were to ask me, isn't very impressive at $300. A graphics card with this kind of performance really should not be more than $200 in 2023 in my opinion, especially considering it does not have more than 8GB of VRAM and has a very slim memory bus, so it's going to struggle right from the start, which is why they're heavily advertising DLSS and frame gen. Also, I did report recently that pricing on GDDR6 VRAM has plummeted, so it's not even a cost issue as to why they're gimping specs. Moving on to our next topic, I wanted to talk a bit about this since it was making the rounds quite a lot this past week, and this was in regards to AMD blocking other vendors' technologies in their sponsored games. This comes from WCCF Tech, and the issue they're talking about here is that it seems like the games that AMD sponsors, those don't end up getting any support for Nvidia's DLSS or Intel's ZSS upscaling tech. While FSR 1 and 2 do work on any GPU, they've been proven to have inferior implementations, not just in visuals but also in performance, especially when it comes to using it on a non-AMD GPU. They go through a list of games which have both DLSS and FSR, some games only have FSR, and vice versa. Either way you look at it, this is just stupidity. Exclusivity never has any benefits for the consumer, it's all about money at the end of the day. Nvidia has also done some shady stuff like this in the past as well, where games that only have GameWorks tech don't support any AMD tech. Also, they even tried this with hardware, where they tried implementing their GPB program, essentially bribing AIB partners to reserve premium GPU designs or iconic sub-brands for their cards only, and even though they said it was scrapped after some community backlash, I feel like it's still somewhat alive. But that's just speculation on my end. But I'm not trying to downplay the situation here by saying, look, Nvidia has done bad stuff, so therefore it makes it okay for AMD. I'm just saying that all companies have done it, and as a consumer, you shouldn't put up with this crap. I know recently a lot of Nvidia GPU owners were pissed off at AMD for this because the new Star Wars Jedi Survivor game had terrible performance at launch, and the only way to get it to run acceptably was with Nvidia's DLSS and frame generation, which weren't officially supported since it's an AMD sponsored title, but a user was able to mod it into the game. WCCF Tech did reach out to AMD, and the response they gave was such a non-answer, basically not addressing the actual question about exclusivity, but just boasting about their own tech. Meanwhile, an Nvidia spokesperson told them they aren't going to restrict developers when it comes to implementing other vendors' technologies. Also, this does come down to the game devs as well. Obviously, they've cut some kind of deal with the manufacturer, which in turn hurts the consumer. Again, there's no benefit to exclusivity, whether it's restricting a game to a certain platform or launcher, or exclusive tech. It just comes down to money at the end of the day. My biggest takeaway from this is that it feels like we're starting to get to this point now where developers are becoming lazy with optimization and are essentially off-putting this to the user, saying, look, just use some upscaling tech to alleviate those performance issues and call it a day. Nobody should have to go out looking for ways to mod DLSS into a game to help with performance, especially if they've got a fairly modern GPU. The game itself should be able to run fine without it for the most part. The last thing I wanted to briefly talk to you guys about were some price drops or promos that were ongoing surrounding AMD's RX 7900 XTX graphics card. This info comes from Video Cards, who are sourcing WCCF tech and Hardware Unboxed. It seems like recently on places like Amazon and Newegg, there were coupons being offered for specific models that were bringing prices below $900. Remember, the RX 7900 XTX launched for $1,000, and AMD partner models were considerably more than that at launch. Now, me personally, I've said this many times before, I think AMD totally messed up with the RX 7900 XTX, and it really should have been called an RX 7800 XT or XTX, and shouldn't have been sold for more than $800, but they decided to give it a higher tier name and upcharge only because the RTX 4080 from Nvidia was $1,200. However, as prices are gradually dropping, this GPU is going to eventually get to that price point of where it probably should have launched at. I mean, if it drops down to $850, then that makes things a lot interesting for high-end gamers in the market. Since the 7900 XTX trades blows with the 4080 when it comes to raw rasterization, and if it's selling for around $300 or $400 less, then that almost makes it a no-brainer. Sure, Nvidia-specific technologies will still sway some buyers over, as well as RTX performance, but I did do a poll recently where I asked you guys if you are even using ray tracing currently, and many of you said you didn't. At these lower prices, the RX 7900 XTX looks like a very compelling offer in my opinion. Sure, it's not quite at that price point I would like to see it, but nonetheless it's progress, and hey, the difference in price is enough for me to say, you know what, I can forego those cool Nvidia features and go with this because it's still giving me some really good raw rasterization performance. Definitely something to think about and keep an eye on as time passes. As a fan of competition, I'd love to see some sort of response from Nvidia, but I doubt that's going to happen as they truly believe they're the only viable option in the market and all other competition is dead or non-existent. Anyways, that'll do it for this one, guys. We'll touch base in the next video. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.